Go back 30 generations, about 900 years, and do the math on how many ancestors you should have. 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, doubling every step back. By generation 30, that math says you should have over a billion direct ancestors, except the entire population of the planet back then was only around 300 million people, which raises an obvious question. How can you have more ancestors than there were humans alive to be them? Hi, I'm Mara, and this is Microplanet. You'd think the math has to be wrong somewhere. 2 parents really did make you. 4 grandparents really did make them. The doubling is real, generation by generation, and it doesn't stop being real just because the numbers get big. So if the math is right and the population numbers are right, something else has to be giving. There are 2 things that resolve this paradox, and the first is that your family tree isn't actually a tree. A real tree branches outward and never reconnects. Every branch is new and separate. Your ancestry doesn't work that way. Picture your father's side and your mother's side as 2 separate branches climbing back through history. The further back you go, the more likely it is that those branches quietly cross paths, a distant cousin marrying a distant cousin without either one knowing it. When that happens, the same person shows up in your family tree more than once, counted twice in your math, but existing only once in reality. Geneticists call this pedigree collapse, and it happens to literally everyone, even in cultures with strong taboos against marrying relatives, simply because populations are finite and the branches eventually have nowhere left to go but back into each other. The second thing that resolves the paradox is that the further back you go, the smaller the available pool of people actually gets. It's tempting to picture the past as having roughly the same number of humans spread evenly across the planet, just doubling and adding up the further back you trace your tree. But human populations have crashed and rebounded many times throughout history. Plagues, famines, migrations that left small founding groups isolated from everyone else. Every time a population bottlenecks down to a small group, every single person alive afterward in that region ends up descending from that same shrunken pool. Run your family tree back through one of those bottlenecks, and your supposedly billion-strong list of unique ancestors collapses down to a much smaller, heavily overlapping group, the same names appearing again and again from a dozen different branches. Put those 2 effects together, and the math actually checks out. Pedigree collapse means many of those branch slots are secretly pointing at the very same person. Population bottlenecks mean the total pool of people was much smaller than you'd assume. So by the time you go back far enough, that exponential curve isn't describing new individuals anymore. It's just describing the same shrinking group of ancestors, counted from more and more directions at once. In fact, geneticists estimate that everyone alive on Earth today shares ancestors that lived only a few thousand years ago. Go back roughly 5,000 to 10,000 years, and basically every single person on the planet shares that same pool of ancestors, just sometimes through dozens of different overlapping lines. Go back even further to maybe 70,000 to 100,000 years, and you reach what some scientists call the identical ancestors point, the moment where literally everyone alive today, no matter where they live now, shares every single ancestor who has any descendants at all. Which brings us back to that 900-year math problem. You really do have something like a billion ancestor slots in your family tree at generation 30, but those slots aren't a billion different people. They're the same few 100 million real humans, each one filling dozens, sometimes hundreds of different slots at once, your 10th great-grandmother on one side, turning out to also be your 10th great-grandmother on 3 other sides, without anyone ever knowing it.